It's fight night, everybody. So, just to be clear, it is Friday, November 15th. It is 8:20 in the evening right now while we were taping this. We'll probably be wrapping up our taping about the time the big fight starts tonight. And we'll talk about why that matters. I'll just put my prediction out. I just want to be clear that this is before, although the show will release after I'm making my prediction before the actual fight. So, almostagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Almostagreement.com. It's got the website. It's got links to all the episodes. You can go back and find any of the interviews we've done with different people and different stuff and junk and whatnot. Go to your favorite podcast provider, like, follow, friend, share. Text us to your friends. Do whatever you can do to keep the show rolling. We're going to keep doing what we do, talking to different people, and go from there. So we're almost here, everybody, and it's going to be a show tonight. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
What's you doing?
Just looking at a goofy look on a guy's face.
He's got a vampire mouth guard.
I was wondering why he had his mouth open so wide.
He's showing off his...
He's showing off. Yeah.
Showing off his grill. His protective grill,
got
at least.
Fangs.
So we got an Indian dude. Right? That's India's flag, right?
Yeah. So I'd say I don't see too many boxers out of India.
No.
But this is like first fight of the night, though, too.
Niraj Goyat.
Like the last guy's record, I think, was like 2-1. So he's been in like 3 or 4 fights.
So he's early in his career.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So like I said, we've got the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson super fight tonight. It is a pretty big deal. Like Ice-T was part of the little intro they did for it, and he was talking about it. It's like I don't know. I've never been a huge boxing fan. I have watched a few boxing matches in my life. Don't get me wrong. Never been a huge fight fan in general. Like the last fight I ever bought was a UFC with Brock Lesnar's last UFC fight, which was like 2012, 15 maybe.
He did boxing?
No, it was his last UFC fight.
Oh, gotcha.
Before he retired from the UFC and went back to wrestling for a little while, and I don't think he's doing that anymore either. But I don't know. I'm fairly indifferent to fighting as a sport. I don't hate it. I will watch them if they're on, but I don't seek them out, I guess.
Right.
But this Paul Tyson fight's a big freaking deal. I think the intro that Ice-T was putting on, it's like, what's the last thing you can think of that this many people wanted to see and got around to see it? Like it's at AT&T. There's 150,000 or so, 140,000 people in person. It's on Netflix. If you already have an account, it's free. If you signed up for an account, it's Netflix account. This may be the most watched single event in the history of time.
Is that what they're predicting, really?
I think it will be, or it'll be close to it. Like
like Super Bowls and stuff? Because it's usually like the number one watched thing of the year. It's like Super Bowl, like Oscars, maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
you're right. It's usually the Super Bowl is number one. NFC, AFC Championship are like 2 and 4. Like the top 5 events are always like major sporting events, but like. It's always the Super Bowl, you're right. And then maybe a basketball final game or something like that.
Right. With the streaming, it's getting kind of harder to really kind of show true numbers of viewership and whatnot.
Absolutely. And Netflix has complete control over what they say on how many people streamed it or not. They know, but whether they tell us the truth or not is a whole different animal. Like we'll find out if we don't already know how much Netflix paid the promotion group to be the exclusive distributor of the fight. I mean, that was Don King's thing. Like that's why Don King was such a big deal. Is he put these fights together and he was the guy that got the HBO thing going. And how much more those fights got made and how much more the fighters and everybody involved got paid because they were big televised events, and how much HBO was paying for them because people would sign up for HBO just so they could watch fights.
I think Jake Paul already been in a couple boxing matches that were like well watched or whatever.
They're pretty big deals, yeah. I mean, that's his whole thing. Like, he has no real career as a fighter per se.
Right.
They've all been very
gamer or something, or is he just an influencer?
I don't know what got him famous in the first place, but yeah, he's just a YouTuber for lack of a better word. But like, he can fight. Like, it's not like he's just some doofus out there. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Okay, so we'll get to the brass tacks of it here. I think he's going to win the fight. I think it's going to go. So there's some modified rules for a heavyweight fight. It's 8 2-minute rounds. A lot of heavyweight fights are 10 3-minute rounds. That's a pretty standard breakdown for them. But it's going to be 8 2-minute rounds, which favors Tyson, honestly.
Is Jake Paul a heavyweight?
He is now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he put the weight on.
I didn't know how sanctioned this was, if they actually made him make...
Yeah, they made weight. They did weigh-ins, and they did the whole... This is a sanctioned fight by, I don't think it's sanctioned by any of the boxing groups.
Right. I thought he was in at least one weight class lower than Tyson, maybe.
No, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the actual weights, the official weigh-in weights were, or we could look it up. I
don't know much about it.
But yeah, anyway, big dudes fighting each other. Where'd it go? Come here. I want videos. Where's the tail of the tape? That's what I want to see.
8 rounds, the fight.
Title fight. Yeah, that's funny. So the 3 of the 5 prelim fights are title fights, not the Tyson Paul fight. Come on. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else.
So how many rounds do you think it's going to go before Paul wins?
I think it's going to go to decision. I think Paul wins in a decision. But USA Today, tail of the tape. Here we go. I mean, Tyson's a scary man. Tyson, 58, 5'10", 228.4 pounds, 71-inch reach, 50-6 all-time, 44 knockouts. Nicknamed Iron Mike or the baddest man on the planet. From Brooklyn. He's a cancer. Apparently that's something bettors like to check out. So Jake is 27. He's 6'1", 227. 76-inch reach. Wow, I didn't realize he was that much taller and longer. That never really bothers Tyson, though. He gets in there. And the problem child and El Gallo is his nickname. He's a Capricorn. And he's not worth as much as Tyson is. Nope, he's worth 8 times as much as Tyson is. Never mind. So, yeah, 225.
He's only off by 3 pounds.
Yeah, so 228 to 227, so it's a pound. Tyson is a pound and a half heavier on the official weigh-in. So, I just think, I don't know. Tyson's a scary man, and I could definitely see him just sending Jake Paul into another existence.
I can't remember who was saying it. It might have even been Rogan, back in the day whenever they first announced this, that Mike Tyson's one of those people, once he gets kind of in that, that mentality of it, it was there's no real turning it off.
Yeah,
I remember part of that. I think part of that was kind of been talking him getting back into training, and
right. Yeah,
I don't know if he'd been asked previously about doing that.
Yeah, Tyson was talking about it on the episode, the Rogan episode with Tyson. They were talking about it, and Tyson was like, "No, I don't train anymore." And Rogan's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I know if I start training again, I'll want to fight again." And shortly after that episode, Tyson started training again, and then we slowly go the trade this way. Also, Rogan on the next episode had said he got a bigger table because Tyson scared the shit out of him. He got a table that was wider, so we'd sit further apart. Yeah, there's a couple of quotes from Rogan about...
I don't believe that. That sounds weird. That's stupid. Why would you invite someone in that you can be like, I need a bigger table because I was scared of it? Then you should have never invited him in.
Fair enough. I just thought it was funny to say.
It seems like a really odd story.
Might have been a joke. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like a
joke. So, yeah, anyway, that's the predictions. I've got... my eldest and I have a bet. He took Jake Paul, or he took Tyson. I took Jake Paul.
I was about to say I'd go for Tyson.
He's got $1. He's got $1 bill to my $2.50. That's about what current odds are. Is 2.5 to 1 for Jake Paul to win.
I mean, Tyson's still got some power.
I mean, he's a scary dude. He looks scary. He slapped the shit out of him yesterday. That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a monster. Don't get me wrong. I agree. I think what Rogan was talking about was true in that. Or I think what he was talking about on Rogan is true. Is once he does his once the switch is turned to the on mode, it does not end until he destroys somebody. So maybe we'll get some ear biting. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
God, I hope not. That'd be the worst thing to happen to him.
I don't know. I learned this week that apparently Evander Holyfield is part of Tyson's is in league with Tyson on the
gummies.
The gummies.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's like it's Evander Holyfield's likeness that he's using.
Kind of.
I mean, it's his ear. But yeah, so he'll be. I don't know. I'm excited. I want to watch it again. Going back to the beginning of that, it's like I can't think of. I'll be curious to see if it outperforms the last Super Bowl, the Super Bowl before last, in numbers, especially internationally. I think it will. I just think it will. I just think it's just high profile enough and crazy enough that it's got that extra little layer of it. And it's on a streaming platform that a lot of people already have. It might. I don't know. I don't know what Netflix upside in this is. I feel like Netflix.
So I was about to say, I wonder if like this kind of week leading up to it, they really started hammering down on people that were sharing, which they started like a year or so ago. They said they were going to start cutting down on people being able to share passwords and whatnot.
I don't know. It's weird, but but for that, they've been falling off in the streaming game in the last couple of years anyway, and so maybe this was their swing at trying to get back to be the top of the game.
I think so.
Yeah, because that's what you got to do. You got to have something that people are willing to subscribe for. Like Apple sucks. Apple TV sucks, except they have Ted Lasso, which is awesome.
Right.
And now they may or may not do another season of Ted Lasso. I've only kept it because I've got I got 3 years free with my new iPhone.
Thought it may have been announced as this was the last one, but I could be mixing that up with another show.
I don't know. There's a couple of Facebook things that keep showing up that are trying to make it sound like there's another one, but I think that's just them trying to scam followers so they can sell ad space on their Facebook page or whatever.
No, I think Netflix will be around for a while. I think we may see some other streaming services join, that have happened.
Netflix is a joke as their comedy series that they do. They were the first to really get to get that one dialed in, and they've done well with their comedy series, well enough that other streaming services are starting to pay top dollar to comedians for their specials.
Right. I was about to say, Netflix has had a bunch of big stand-up specials in the past 5-10 years.
Yeah. But Jim Gaffigan, he does all his with Prime, but he was the first that Prime did it with, and that was a big deal when Prime started doing comedy specials with Jim Gaffigan. And then Hulu's had a couple. But Netflix still seems to be the standard in the comedy sphere because Adam Sandler just put out a new special and it's weird.
I can be like Gringo Poppy and put it out on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that do that.
He got made fun of it for doing that.
There's guys that do that because if it's good enough.
Yeah, it has bombed.
No, I don't know who that guy is. So.
Oh, is it Brendan Schultz?
Yeah,
former UFC guy. Apparently, I think that was his name. I think that was the name of his special was Gringo Poppy because that's his nickname or some bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Schaub or Schultz?
Schaub. Yeah, sorry.
Brendan Schaub. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that one. There's some guys that have done well on them, just because they get enough views that they start getting.
I think there was a funny interview of him on a podcast with either Jake Paul or Logan Paul, and they were asking him about it. And they were even kind of trying to get out of the thing, we got a thing we got to do. Literally trying to cut the podcast short.
Because they were bored with him?
I think so.
Damn.
They were kind of teasing him for putting out his special on YouTube.
Two guys that made their living on YouTube?
I guess.
Interesting.
It could have been two other guys. I thought it might have been one of the Paul brothers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know them. I don't follow them.
Nah, neither
that
do
way.
I just hear about them in the periphery.
But hell, to go back to the original point though, it's my eldest is what time's that fight tonight? And I was I think they say it starts at 8, but a normal fight, he's never watched fights before. It's usually it's there's multiple fights and the one you care about is going to be the last one of the night. And so sometimes they have it strictly scheduled, but most of the time, depending on how long the fights go before it, is when the last fight starts. So you got to kind of watch them all, or at least kind of have to pay attention until your fights. The fight before your fight is the fight where you start paying attention.
Right.
And so, but he wants to watch it, so he's let me know when it starts. And so if we're not done here, we're pausing to watch the Tyson fight, because it's going to be a quick fight. 8 2-minute rounds with I think it's a 1-minute break. So 24 minutes. It'll be a 30-minute fight total, give or take. I mean, the fight will start at 10, quote unquote, but that'll be 15, 20 minutes of walkout and warm up and all the kind of bullshit. And then we'll finally start at 10:30, 10:45, run 30, 45 minutes and be done. But I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think it's, neither are like it's a well-produced fight. I'll say that. They put it right here after the election's over. Everybody's worn out with politics stuff. Anything but politics this weekend. Can we do anything but politics this weekend? Yeah, let's watch Tyson and Paul fight. Okay, cool. So we'll see what the numbers are. I'm excited to see what the numbers are, and I'm excited to see the fight. I think it'll be a decent fight. I don't think it's going to be. I don't expect to personally. I don't know anything about fighting, but personally, I don't think it's going to be a particularly exciting fight. I think there'll be a couple of knockdowns throughout the fight, but I don't think there's going to be anything. I don't think there's going to be anybody getting knocked out. I maybe one of them gets knocked down twice in the same round, but I don't think we're going to have any sort of TKOs or anything. I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be like a slugfest. It's going to be a slow jab, jab, punch, clinch, jab, jab, punch, clinch, end of the round, repeat. That's my take on it. So we'll see how wrong I am, and this will release after it's too late. It's on tape now, and so it's too late for me to change my prediction, but that's what I think's going on. So what else is new in the world, Fran?
Not much that I've heard.
Not much?
Well, I mean, there's always new shit going on. But
all the appointments are going on, but let's go local. The city voted to, on a couple of the big ones we've talked about a little bit, the round 1 of 2 of both the hotel-motel tax change as well as the parking rules changes. Was approved this week, and not the week of Thanksgiving. They convene again, I believe, for their second voting session on the topic, and it looks like both will probably pass. If you recall, we go to that weird app you have to use meter spots, and the garages will be free after 6 or whatever, but if you park in there before 6, you have to pay for the time you're there until 6, but not after.
Right.
But still free nights and weekends, except for that weird Saturday in the Market Square garage. I like it. I think they should. I think they should do away with 3 nights and weekends. Personally, I also don't like the argument. Like one of the arguments is like, "What about the people that work down there?" Yeah. Okay, they need to park and pay for parking, or they need to figure out a way to get to work. Maybe their employer other employers let their employees park in their parking lot. Although Cookout didn't. That was a weird one. On game days, when I was at the Cookout on campus,
right,
we weren't allowed to park in our parking lot.
Does anybody even use that parking lot? There's like 5 spaces in that fucker.
Right, and that's why I figured they'd just let us use the parking lot. Because we didn't use it. Like, I figured, because, I have history on campus, and I know how campus works. So I was like, why don't we just fence the parking lot in and rent some fucking picnic tables and throw them out there? And then we can just use the to-go windows as register stands and sell straight out the window and let people just sit out in the parking lot and eat. We'll do so much more business that way. And they're like, nope, we don't ever close the drive-thru or anything. Drive-thru is all that matters. And so we're trying to run the drive-thru on game day, which was miserable for business. Like, there are a ton of people walking up to the counter inside, but drive-thru didn't do anything because you couldn't get in and out of the parking lot because traffic wasn't moving on the actual street.
Right. And
so we'd have cars in line forever, but not because we were slow, but because they couldn't exit the parking lot. And so, anyway, I don't know. I don't feel bad particularly for people who work down there. Like, most of the people I know that work work at downtown, Uber in and out of work anyway. The handful of people that I know that work on Market Square specifically.
Right. A few people who work downtown. I think they just use the parking garages. Which a lot of businesses, I think, it's kind of like a part of, depending on your level of employment, but a lot of that's kind of like included in your employment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the people that work down there during the day at, say, like one of the law offices and stuff, a lot of them, either the office they work for, or they personally buy a parking space or buy access to a garage because they have to park down there all day, every day. Just because you work at night, why wouldn't, what's the difference? I mean, granted, if you're a partner at a law firm versus a busboy at Pres Pub, the difference is a lot of money.
Right.
But it still works. I don't know. That's my kind of take on that one. Like I said, I think they should do away with nights and weekends anyway. The whole point of many moons ago when they did the free nights and weekends was to encourage people to come down there.
Right.
They don't need to encourage people to come down there anymore.
I mean, I would say on weeknights there's probably still some need for. I mean, I haven't been down there on a weeknight in a while, but I'm assuming it's not exactly bustling like a Friday and Saturday night.
I mean, it was like 6 weeks ago. I went and did the beer. What is they called? I can't remember what they're called now. The Brew Hub, the Knox Brew Hub.
Don't know.
It's on the corner of Market Square. They do it's the Brew Hub podcast or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but I was a guest on their podcast. Knox Brew Stories is the name of the podcast if anybody wants to check that out. Me and old Rusty did a little plug for Hollerboo and hung out and talked to him for a little bit. But it wasn't like slamming or anything, but we were also there at like 5 o'clock. But there was a good amount of people that were coming in and out while we were there for the hour and a half or whatever we were there, getting set up, doing our part of the show, and then heading out. But especially as I was heading out, I walked through the square instead of around the side of the square to my car. And, I mean, there was a good sum of people, and it was a Monday evening. So I don't think there's anybody that's hurting for traffic of consumers down there anytime.
Well, I'd be curious to see, especially that Market Square garage. Be curious to see how full it is on like a weekday night normally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
if they're really missing out on, a lot of income, or if it's, 25% full to where it's easier just to possibly encourage more people to come down and be like, yeah, it's fine, just park there for free.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. But apparently, like, there's like they paid for some people to do a study, and that's where the study said you should be charging for parking all the time.
Right.
The professionals on the topic said so.
I mean, if you look at numbers and be like, yes, if you were charging for parking, your city would make so much more money. Well, yeah, obviously.
Well, yeah, but there's a metrics that they use, and it's like the way you price meter spots is that one spot on every block should be open all the time. So that if you're swinging down there and you want to go into the coffee shop and get a coffee or whatever, that you should be able to find a place to park, but you're not going to hang out long enough to not get back in your car and get out of there, because it's like, well, I just wanted to get the coffee, but basically my car's parked, so I'm just going to go do something else. And so it's basically a way to encourage people to get their tasks done and get back is the way you're supposed to price these things, the meters.
The meters, right?
Basically, for meter spots, the rule is you don't want people parking there for the long haul. So if they're going to a movie, you don't want them parking in a meter spot.
Right.
And so you want to price it so they're like, I don't want to park in a.
Well, I think most meters you can't pay for more than like an hour anyway.
Well, with the new ones, because you're paying with the app, you can go back in and add more whenever you want.
Ah, that's right. Yeah.
From wherever you are.
True.
Oh, another one.
But I'm assuming there's still probably a limit on it.
I know, that's a good question. No, I don't know. There's a wrinkle also is that...
Because I think most of them have that already, where it's like, so much for every, 15 minutes, whatever, like a quarter for every 15 minutes. But I think there's usually
you can only max it out
there.
It says 2 hours.
Right. It's like, sure, you can throw as many quarters in there as you want, but it's going to say expired after 2 hours.
But you have but you can come back at 1 hour and 59 minutes and load in more quarters, and
yeah, I guess
you'll have another 2 hours.
I don't know. You might have to let it go from expired. I don't know.
But the other wrinkle in there that's kind of neat is that apparently the current standard is like, I don't know exactly how this. I don't know. Whatever the meter maid are for the city, there are meter maids for the city.
Right.
Whatever the name of that group is, the parking authority or whatever it is that runs the parking garages and does the meters. They currently are required when they decide to tow somebody out of a meter spot to have a KPD officer come watch. And one of the things that's also changing in this is that they were like, we're going to tow this car. It's been here for too long. And then they just call the tow company. They don't have to call KPD to send an officer to hang out and watch them tow a car. But apparently that was a rule.
I wonder what the reasoning behind that was.
I mean, I think originally, and I don't know if it's one of those things that the job changed over time. I think the way Scott and Jesse were talking about earlier is like originally the meter service was like they didn't have the insured authority basically.
Yeah, so I was about to say it could be something kind of like that.
Right, it was an insurance kind of thing, and so you had the KPD officer there to ensure that both the city employee meter person and the tow company was treating this car properly, so that the person whose car was towed would get it back in the correct condition, kind of stuff. But I guess over time, the parking authority has gotten those credentials added to their job, so they already have the credentials and authority from the city's ordinance. I think actually that's what it is. I think technically the old ordinance didn't give the meter maids the authority to tow, and so when they wanted to tow, they had to ask KPD to come out and request.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It was probably more of like a permission thing, that the parking authority can't say, hey, this car has to be towed. Like I guess it's an officer that has to say, this car is parked illegally or whatever.
Right.
Now it's deemed by, a law enforcement person to say, this is beyond the scope of whatever. It needs to be towed away.
Right. And one of the other questions too is I leave my car there and I pay for 2 hours and my car's there for 4 and I get a ticket.
Right.
Am I going to get a physical ticket in my windshield, or is it just going to be like a push notification onto the app that I paid for, that I paid some with? Because I think it has to still be paper. Like I think it would have to be another thing deep down in the ordinance thing, that the official notification.
It'd probably be like a red light camera, to where you probably get a notification in the mail, but like you said, if you've got to have some kind of app, you will probably get a notification on there as well. But if there is a requirement for paper, you'll probably have that.
Well, so I just don't get the app and I go park in a space and don't pay for it.
Right.
They can't notify me via the app because I'm not on the app. So there has to be a way for them to notify me that I have a summons to court to pay this ticket.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one how they settle that one out. What was the other one I just said? Parking. Oh, the hotel motel tax. They're going to add 1% to the city hotel motel tax, and they're going to take the sunset clause off of it, and then write in permissions to use that money on things other than the convention center. So that looks like it's probably going to pass too, because who's going to object to that?
Why did the guy just stop fighting? Sorry.
It was the end. It was the end of the fight. It was the last seconds of the fight. And it's how tough I am. I can take 3 extra punches. But who's going to complain? Like, the hotels are doing fine. They're getting plenty of occupancy, so they're not going to complain about an additional fee.
I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. I don't know how most of them are staying afloat.
I mean, I don't know. We don't have enough, apparently. It's still one of the things that pops up all the time. And the other part, going back to the parking thing, is there's how this affects the multi-use stadium thing. Although the good news is, back to the tax part, one of their at least stated intentions is to get this extra % rolling and spend that money on things that they've been wanting to do, specifically with the Civic for years. That the Civic's fine. I didn't know this. The Civic is actually undersized for hockey. That is not an official professional hockey rink.
Huh. I guess compared to the other,
it's not
ECHL.
Right. Yeah, it's not the correct size for the league that they play in, but they have a permission exemption for the undersized rink because they have to.
Oh, the rink sizes?
The rink size.
I think I may remember hearing something about that before, about ours being slightly different.
I mean, I don't mind it. It's kind of fun with the smaller rink. Now that I think about it, kind of makes it a little more action-packed, but I didn't realize that was why. But in hindsight, it does seem kind of small, especially after going to that Preds game last year. The arena makes it feel much bigger, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would have thought they were the same size, but perspective's crazy.
Right. Apparently they are not. Apparently it's a little bit small in here.
So not like the Olympic size is big.
They're bigger than NHL, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that they want to spend the money. They want the extra money on. There's a number of, by state law.
Yeah, but what the fuck are they going to do? Now they're like, oh, we need money because we can put money in the Civic. But when was the last time they even talked about putting money in the Civic? I
don't know, because they didn't have they never had a conversation about where to get the money from until now, and why now all of a sudden it dawned on them to do this. I don't know. I think the truth is this is completely me making shit up, but I think the 100% truth of it is that they're worried they don't have enough to pay whatever they're going to have to pay for the baseball project.
Who?
The city.
What do you mean?
Because the way the whole big financing mess worked, the state pitched in their share. There's the tax deferments and all the different shit that's going on with it. But at the end of the day, the city and the county will have to match payments for whatever the shortfall is, which the estimate last time they ran through it was about $600,000 a year. It's not much really when you get down to the brass tacks of it. $500,000 or so a year for the city, $500,000 or so for the county. Which the county didn't. The county's hotel motel tax doesn't have any limitations on it. It just has to be on tourism related stuff. And so the county was already planning on just using hotel motel tax for it anyway. The city, on the other hand, didn't have a specific source for that funding. So what I really think's happening is that the city is concerned that they don't have a way to pay what they're going to have to pay for it when the bill starts coming due. And so this is a way to make sure they have extra funding available, so if they do need to dip into it, they can. Because they don't have an official, because again, the current hotel motel tax for the city is obliged by the ordinance when they took the loan out that it ends, that 100% of the city hotel motel tax gets collected and goes straight into payments for the Civic Center, the World's Fair Convention Center, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
That is all that the city's allowed to use it for by ordinance. And so they don't have any other special revenues on where to get money from to help pay for this. And so this is the way they want to pay for it. I guess parking, too, they could use some of these extra parking money, even though they're giving up a bunch of their parking money to the company that's going to run the app and shit like that, but whatever. Alas. But again, I would like to see some work done on the Civic. I would like the Civic to get burnt to the ground. Apparently, the last time there was some real discussion was the early aughts. There was some conversation about building a new Civic. At the time, $150 million was the quote for the plan, for the ideas that some people have been floating around.
I'd say it needs a lot. I mean, the seats are shitty. So, I mean, even just replacing the seats would be tens of thousands of dollars.
But if I was thinking about it, because if one goal in it is to make it a official rink size, then you're losing seats.
See, I don't know how much desire there is behind that.
I mean, I think it would open up.
So I want to say at least kind of team-wise, I think they've been doing shitty the past year or two. So it's not like they can. It's not like the Ice Bears as an organization can really come out and be like, "Hey, we need more money because our team's doing awesome and we're bringing in blah blah blah."
But I would also think though that everybody that uses an ice rink for anything is probably designed on a standard hockey rink.
Right, but I think that's the only ice-related thing that happens at the Civic.
I mean, we've had Disney on Ice there and other stuff in the past.
Have they?
Yeah. Oh. But I would think that would be I would guess. I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that Disney on Ice is designed for a standard NHL rink.
Right.
Any other, I mean, hell, when you have those weird figure skating tours that they do, where you bring out some old Olympians and they do those shows.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing that around here either.
Well, and why? But again, I think if you're, I want to say Brian Boitano, but he's the diver. Who's the old dude? I don't know.
Yeah, Brian Boitano was a figure skater.
Was he a figure skater? Okay. Yeah. So whatever. Anyway, that was.
I don't know if that was the name you were looking for. Scott Hamill.
Yeah, Scott Hamill. That's who I was looking for. But when they do those tour things, if you're a professional top level figure skater, the rink. You know what a standard rink is. You don't have to see what you're doing. You know where you are in the rink by where you are. And if that rink's a little bit different sized and you're trying a triple axel or whatever and you run into the wall, you can get hurt. You're like, let's just skip that show. I don't want to do a show in a rink that's the wrong size.
Right, but I doubt it's off by that much.
Where,
like you said, it would make a difference in that.
It wouldn't make a difference in the show. Say,
okay, I know if I jump on this blue dot that I've got, 8 feet to spin and do a triple lux.
I would think that they're trying that to put on those shows. They're using as much of the ice as possible by design, both for the Disney on Ice shows and or one of these figure skating shows or anybody else that uses it. Even stuff that's not ice related that still operates in an arena like that. They're built around understanding that the floor is that size.
Yeah,
and so when you have to adjust specifically for one venue, you just skip it instead of use it. Especially when the venue only seats 3,000. Or 3,500 or whatever the capacity is. And so that's kind of my point. I'm I don't really, I think, but again, how much is it going to cost to renovate the Civic to get a full-size rink in there and add a net zero in seats, add enough seats to take up the seats you're losing by making the rink full-size? I don't even know how you could do that. Like, you'd have to literally raise the roof.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see them making the arena proper itself any bigger.
Yeah.
Still, I don't know what capacity is, but it's decent capacity.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't to me, I don't know what options you have to renovate that to make it a more useful space for more things. Because one, it sounds like shit. Anytime I've ever been to a concert in there, it's awful.
I only saw one concert there.
Yeah. The sound's not good. It's not a good music venue.
Fucking concrete walls.
Yeah. The auditorium side's okay. I've seen a couple things in there. Saw Robin Williams in there, but a comedy show doesn't really care about acoustics that much as long as it's not really echoey. But, like, I don't know. Like, I've been to the Civic for a handful of events outside of hockey, and the room just doesn't work well. I don't know what you could do to that room, either side, short of just tearing it down and building a new one, which is my vote anyway. And just go ahead and tear it down and build it where the city-county building is. And just take that whole block where the Civic is now and turn it into a big square city-county plot complex. Make it cool, people. Have a little pizzazz. Get a little Vegas in you.
I would say leave it where it is.
I mean, that's what they'll do, probably. Something more or less in the same spot.
It's a big chunk of property. I don't know what they plan on doing with the property up the hill where the police station used to be.
So the Clayton family kids something?
Yeah, park?
It's going to be like a science museum or whatever they call them. Children's museum.
That could be cool.
Yeah. That's already in the works. Like, they tore it down. Like, I happened to drive by there not long ago.
Yeah, you mentioned that last
They tore down the old KPD building.
Right. I was just saying there's a big stretch between where the Civic is and the police department is.
Right. But there's that road that runs through it, and that's where the line is.
Right.
That's where the property line. I mean, I guess
still, that was all city property.
Right. Basically. It was, but I don't know if it's still city property where the Clayton.
Well, they probably got a TIF program and pilot program.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the city has the rights to use it. They just. But Clayton Family, it's Clayton Family Science Museum or children's something. It's children's something, like it's kids targeted.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't take away from the Muse. Muse is a cool place.
I've never been to our Muse. I've been to other.
I went there before when it wasn't. Yeah, before they like remodeled it and everything. It was pretty crappy little kind of children's science museum. Like we went into the what do they call it? They do like the SAR show or whatever, and apparently the thing they use looks like a giant globe.
Planetarium.
Went into the planetarium, and it was my wife and I at the time, and 2 kids were the only people in there. Of course, the kids were like making noise, and I'm like, "Shh, be quiet!" Like,
you're like, why?
There's nobody else in here. Well, the guy was trying to do the presentation.
Oh, it was a live one. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. It was like, at 3:00 we're going to do the, our astrology show, or astronomy show. Sorry, not astrology, astronomy show.
Capricorn,
right?
Jake Paul is a Capricorn. No, sorry, Mike Tyson is. We just learned this.
So it was really awkward to like be the only people in there after it started. I'm like, so nobody else coming in here?
UT's got one.
I've read about it. I've heard they've got a pretty nice one that's like up on the top of the roof.
No, it's in the science building up on,
or I guess where they have some of their telescopes.
Up on
I've
the hill,
heard they have like big viewings, like once a month.
We did a cool thing with Scouts where we went down there, and you go the planetarium's in the basement, like it's way down in the bottom of this building. But then we went up on the roof and had a bunch of telescopes set up, like, and a couple of students were up there, like the professor that was leading us through all this different stuff, and then they had a couple students manning each of the telescopes, and they let the kids. I pushed a couple kids out of the way. I was like, I want to see. Show me. And so
I've read about it. I keep meaning to go down and do it because they do like public viewings.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. You should check it out. I liked it. I enjoyed it very much. There are goodly some of things where the Scouts have come through pretty solid. What's going on here?
But the Muse is a good museum. They've definitely updated it. It's right there by the
Chilhowie
by
Park.
the zoo. Yeah.
So, anywho, I don't know. Whatever. Like I said, I think my take on the whole thing is that they're just trying to make sure they have funding to get the baseball stadium done. Which I'd say, let's just do outdoor hockey. They were talking about.
Do you think they're running into unforeseen cost, or do you think
this
is lack of preparing?
No, this was planned. It was planned this way. We knew about this in the finance. We don't know the exact number, but the city and the county
knew that we may be short.
Oh, I don't know
that we need to make money
no,
up.
We knew that the city and county were going to be paying a certain amount a year in.
Right.
We didn't know exactly what the number was, but we knew it was going to be. I think that the estimate was around $600,000 a year that the city and the county were going to have to pay into the loan.
This wasn't figured out beforehand.
The county figured theirs out.
Oh, okay.
The city had no. The city said, "Yeah, we could pay it," but there was no. It's coming out of this fund, so the city's just taking it out of the general fund for right now.
Okay. Guess that's normal.
I don't know what it is. I mean, to be fair.
Like, yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we'll take care of it.
I mean, to be fair.
Hey, we'll figure that out later.
To be fair, $500,000 to a budget for the city of Knoxville is not that big a fucking deal. I mean, it's really not that much money considering. I mean, there's a $34 million budget or something like that this year.
Then it should be easy to cut or to add that to any budget. Then, if it's that easy.
I mean, I think I think it is that easy. It's just this way. If they do what I'm projecting that I think they're doing, is this way they don't have to take it out of something else. They don't have to take 7 officers from KPD, even though KPD never uses them all, or whatever it is. They don't have to. They don't have to mess with that if they don't want to.
Yeah, I know we're gestulating here, but it kind of seems your kind of version of it. It seems like this is kind of a possible reactionary addition of that 1% tax.
I mean, I don't know if it's reactionary. I'm curious why now. I don't see why they wouldn't have put something like this in place sooner. Like, what was the reasoning for doing this now? Like, there was no obligation for them to not do it. There was no rule. There was nothing in the ordinance that currently exists that says you can't make any adjustments to this ordinance until 24. Now, they are coming up on the end of. I mean, I think they said the convention center or whatever is supposed to be should be paid off by the 2032. So we only have 8 years left of that anyway. And so realistically,
nobody really uses.
Right. Realistically, they just have to get to as long as the city can get. Well, actually let me back up a second. I think number 1A is they wanted to take the sunset clause off of this ordinance so they could keep collecting after they pay off the civic or the convention center. Excuse me. That's the number 1A is they really want that. And then while we're at it, let's add 1% and start paying in some other stuff that we want to do anyway. And then when the convention center's paid off, they're going to be getting that full 4% to spend on whatever they want, as long as they can make the claim that it's tourism related.
Sure.
I mean, that's I get what the city councilors who are pitching it and had voted upon it. It was all we intend to do some deferred maintenance on other facilities that we've been wanting to do but didn't have the money to do, and that's why we're putting this together. That's their intent. That's their stated intentions. County news. Larson is priming we're probably going to have to raise property tax in Knox County. He's priming that conversation. And I think it's intentional for his political purposes. He's priming it now so that when the actual mayoral run gets going, that anybody trying to run for mayor promising they're not going to raise property tax kind of gets laughed out of the room. Because it's not a choice. Like I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a choice or not, but at least for the finance dorks that are discussing this topic, the county has to, it has to raise property tax. Like now. Apparently, we are in the 10 largest municipalities in the state of Tennessee. We have the lowest county property tax by a lot.
Wasn't that one of Todd's big thing? Was raising it by a penny or something like that?
Yeah, Todd wanted to raise it. I mean, again, if all the conversation is true, you're allowed to hide it in growth for a while. We've been growing significantly and much more significantly since this conversation started back in 2010 or so. It's always been a thing that kind of pops up every once in a while in county government for a while. But Ragsdale, Jacobs, the last Haslam, whatever, the last handful of county mayors, right. They've always been able to kind of avoid it for their political ends so they could get elected by saying, look, we have the growth. We have all these new properties, especially you take a piece of farmland that's X number of acres, and you subdivide it and turn it into a subdivision, and it goes from $1 million piece of land to a $15 million piece of land or whatever it is once all the property is developed. It's like that new generation is going to offset any of the costs that we do over time. It's like you can do that for a while, but we're starting to get to a capacity point where you just can't keep depending on growth to cover it. Plus, that growth has more cost than, at least argumentatively, that growth has more cost in it than it's earning extra. Because how many subdivisions do we have to add before Knox County Sheriff's Office needs to add another deputy?
Right.
You know,
or infrastructure.
Right. How many new, like, how much do we have to go? How many new roads do we have to build? Now, a lot of times, Planning Commission puts a lot of that road on, at least the original road, on the developer. Like a lot of these,
right? But sewer, water, electrical.
Right. But I mean, that's not that. I don't understand how that one works, because that's not county property. That's not county business.
That's right. You're talking about county.
You know, because the sewer, water, electrical is going to come through KUB or Lenore City or First Utility or whatever it is. They're going to run all those lines.
Yeah. So if you want to put a subdivision,
I mean, I think the developer does all that too.
That line.
I think the developer does. And other than the telecoms, I don't think the developer lays AT&T or Comcast. Now, obviously, KUB is going to run their fiber in there while they're running power and water or whatever else KUB is doing in there. But I think when you go, like, when you take 10 acres and want to develop it into 30 properties or whatever, you go and you draw it out and you cut all the trees down, take them off, and then your utility companies come in and they run their lines, and then your paving crews come in and put your, like, as you've seen it, you've gone to those neighborhoods when they're just getting built, and you look out and it's just an orange field of dirt.
All right.
And there's maybe some gravel where they've started putting where the roads are going to go, but then you see all these pipes just sticking out of the ground. I mean, that's where they've gone. They've run the sewer lines from each individual house. The main sewer line's already in there somewhere. Like, I've seen it where, like, you have a gravel roads through these things, and then there's a manhole that's like 10 inches above the gravel, because that's where the road level's going to be once they bring the full paving set in. But they have all the manholes and stuff, all that's already in there. And I'm pretty sure the developers pay or at least prep part of that with KUB. And then the developers usually do the first paving of that road, and then they give that property to the city or county when the development is complete. And so, like, you have a neighborhood, like, whatever the roads are in the neighborhood eventually become county property. But at least for that original paving, the city or the developer's doing it. But then that becomes a county issue of maintaining those roads, maintaining that storm drain or whatever it is that's in there, all the different parts and pieces that are in there. It is now the county's responsibility to tend to it, and that does have a cost. Whether that new tax revenue from that development supersedes that cost, I'm sure it does, but then all the other costs that come on as well. Because, I mean, like, how many, like, all these artery roads...
It may be just as likely to put in a subdivision with a bunch of septic tanks and not tie into sewer system.
It depends on...
Depends on how far in the county you are. Like, how much of an access do you have to water lines in general? Right.
Zoning's going to have particular specifics of the zoning is going to have some rules on whether you can and can't do that. But
especially in the case you were talking about, if it going from a rural property to subdivision.
I think if you're a developer, you're probably going to run sewage. I don't agree with it personally as a home buyer, but I think most home buyers would prefer to be hooked up to a sewage.
Well, I mean, even my parents' property not far from here. Like, they just got tied into the sewer, I think, like 5 years ago or so.
Yeah. That's because KUB came out and ran a sewer line, and they had access to it.
Yeah. So I'm saying, but that was an established neighborhood that has been there a long time, but then KUB didn't even have sewer going out.
Right, but I think that... that's a good point.
See what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I don't know. That'll be something to look at. I wonder. I
never thought about it. Like, when a subdivision pops up, like, who brings in all that kind of, like, infrastructure?
I would think that if it's available to the developer, he's going to hook up his neighborhood to sewage. If it's out there,
how much? Well, yeah, I guess a lot of subdivisions don't have power lines, so I guess they are already running.
They bury a lot of it. Yeah.
Okay. I was about to say, what pressure is there to start just burying stuff whenever we build a new?
I mean, I would think again. I would think if you're a developer, the point is to sell the units for as much as you can. Right. And I've
thought about it now. I think in most subdivisions for the past 15, 20 years,
all your utilities
power lines.
Yeah. Yeah. All your utilities bearing is a plus to your value every time. So, yeah, we'll see. But anyway, so Larson is basically he's not saying he's going to raise taxes when he becomes mayor, but I think he's trying to set it up where he's going to be able to talk about raising taxes as mayor without being the one guy because the Republicans that are running against him. I promise
without being a surprise.
Taxes. Right. It's just kind of laying the groundwork for making it hard to make the argument that you're not going to raise taxes. Because it's basically he's putting it out there. It says, okay, well, if you're going to say you're not going to raise taxes, what services are you going to cut? Because we cannot continue down this path without raising taxes. To which I'm going to get Larson on the phone. We're going to have a talk about it. Like, maybe it's time to go Metro, buddy. I mean, you're a super liberal Republican anyway. Let's just get it done. What are we waiting on?
City and county to be friends.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that's really what it. I mean, that's what seems to be the reality to me. Is that as much as the county is still very Republican, and as much as this last election shows that it's not as purple as I thought it was, it's going to take county commission being a 5-4 Democrat majority. It's going to take the at-large county-wide races starting to get won by Democrats regularly. It's going to take a Democrat Knox County mayor for that conversation to actually maybe really happen, because there's no appetite for it in the nonpartisan or in the partisanship that is these two entities, because it doesn't do it doesn't do any good politically for these players to make that move, because it might be good for us, but that's not what they're there for. At least not on this topic. That's my take, at least.
Yeah, I don't know if they just kind of cordon themselves off, and as far as city people basically saying, we're trying to help the city folk, and the county people subsequently being like, our focus is on our county residents.
Well, if you take it to me, if you take it back into more of a,
they kind of view it as like these constituents on average have totally different needs, so
I think
have to have a different approach.
I think if you take it in the more direct, just straight politics, is if you're a Democrat, you win office in the city. If you're a Democrat, you lose office in the county. And so, if you're a Democrat in the city who maybe even thinks Metro is a good idea, to advocate for that is to kill Democrats in local government, because Democrats so far can't win countywide races. And so until that becomes a reality, then you're ceding all the power to the Republicans. If you're a Democrat on that side of it, which would be the easiest way to solve the problem would be just the city of Knoxville just to dissolve as an entity. I wonder how the naming would work on that.
We did what now?
So the city charter, the city votes and puts a ballot initiative out because they'd have to do it because they're changing the charter. They vote to dissolve the charter. That's the easiest way to go Metro in Knoxville. It would be Knox County, or the city of Knoxville just ceases to exist. Then all the governmental responsibility would fall onto the county, because the county has to exist by state law.
But the city doesn't.
Correct.
So how do you have a county seat without any kind of incorporated town?
That's what I'm curious about.
Okay.
I think it doesn't have to be. It could be unincorporated in the sense that it doesn't have its own governmental body. The city of Knoxville could continue to exist. It just wouldn't be as
right. But I think you still have to have a county seat, essentially.
Right, but the city of Knoxville would be the seat of Knox County. It always will be the seat of Knox County. It's just
what would be the county seat?
The city of Knoxville.
It's not a thing anymore. You've dissolved it.
You're dissolving the government of the city of Knoxville. You're not dissolving the city of Knoxville.
Okay.
Because it would be the city of Knoxville would be unincorporated at that point. Like Rocky Hill is an unincorporated neighborhood, or maybe a better one is like Powell.
Rocky Hill is nothing.
You're right, but whatever. Like there's a couple.
Powell is nothing either. I don't think.
I
think it's an area. I don't think it's even considered a town or unincorporated.
I mean, Farragut is, but it has its own government.
Right.
No.
I don't think
Straw
Powell
Plains. There's Straw Plains is a township.
Don't believe so.
I don't know how it works. I mean, Nashville, the city of Nashville, it's the city of Nashville is Davidson County. It's one entity functionally. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how the paperwork would work on it, but essentially, the city of Knoxville governmentally can cease to exist. The county would have to take
paperwork-wise, you can dissolve a city entity, but that sounds pretty complex.
There's got to be counties that don't have a major city that has a city that is the county seat, but it is not an incorporated city.
Right.
There's got to be like some like Cumberland County. What's the big city in Cumberland County?
Incorporated and like unincorporated. I thought it had to do more with kind of like with size. It could be also in how it's established, I guess, per se.
I mean, I think
most like unincorporated are usually like a town of like 1,200 people or whatever.
Right. I think unincorporated is just this is a town, but it doesn't have a government.
That makes sense.
And so it would be an unincorporated city of Knoxville would be the county seat for Knox County. I don't know. I don't know how that would technically work, but I know that the most simple example would be that the city of Knoxville government ceases to exist, and Knox County government would have to take over all those roles by rule of the state. That'd be the easy way to do it. I don't think that's the right way to do it, personally. I think the city of Knoxville should absorb all of Knox County.
So Nashville just has like a metro mayor, basically?
Correct. I don't know. They've got to have a county executive by state law
for Davidson County.
Yeah, and so Davidson County, but like the responsibility, like Davidson County has like zero. The only thing, and again, the stuff that Davidson County has is stuff that the county government has to handle by state law. Like state law, the county runs the jail, and so Davidson County prison system or prison, I don't know how many they have there, is run by Davidson County Sheriff. Sheriff has to exist in a county, but the sheriff's office there, that's all they do. They serve they're process servers and jailers. They have no police from Davidson County. It's all National Metro Police Department. They do all the actual policing. The sheriff's office only does the jail and serves papers. So I don't know. Anyway, I think the Nashville model is what Knoxville should be using. It makes no sense to me why we're not, because the Nashville model still there's a sub breakdown in Nashville.
Does Memphis do a metro?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
You had to think about that for a second. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
I'm not gonna put $1 million on it, but I'm gonna go 99% sure.
I'm starting to think of what other kind of major municipalities there are that kind of have this similar structure.
In Tennessee,
if it's something that as you get to a bigger city, does New York do that? Obviously, they've got different boroughs. I don't think they do.
Hell, New York covers more than one county.
So I'm wondering if it's right. So I wonder if it's if it kind of there's a midpoint between you're a big enough city to where metro works, but where you don't want to get too big to where you're encompassing several districts or jurisdictions.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think to me the question is, what's the point? What's the point? The point is to have the services and the governmental services available, right? I mean, police, fire, whatever. That's the point of the things that we depend on our government to do. Why do we need to? Especially with how stupid the city of Knoxville is drawn. That's part of my reasoning for it. But they need to go unannex a bunch of stuff. And another thing too is I think the county finance is very hamstrung by the way tax law works for the state of Tennessee, because the city of Knoxville gets almost all of the sales tax revenue in the local portion of the sales tax.
Right. They provide free fire, free trash.
Okay, but if the county got
that's a cost.
Yes, it is a cost. And they also pay 60% of whatever they collect in sales tax back to the county for schools, but they don't pay for schools. They don't have their own school system. They run through the Knox County school system. So basically Knox County Schools is already metro anyway. It's kind of my point on that one. But if Knox County, so if especially in Powell out here in our neighborhood, where like all of North Shore is part of the city, even though I am east of that, but I'm not part of the city kind of stuff. But
most of North Shore is not in the city.
Yes, it is. All the way down to Mississippi Parkway is city of Knoxville on North Shore.
Did they move the lines?
All that commercial, as back when Ash was mayor.
So I'm pretty sure if you go from like my parents' house coming into Rocky Hill, there's a sign that says like "Welcome to Knoxville."
I don't know. I know the McDonald's we worked at is in the city of Knoxville. I know that. Now it's maybe a little island of whatever out there, because that was the whole thing. Remember when it flooded? Right. Ebenezer Lake or whatever flooded.
Right.
And we were talking to
Ebenezer Lake.
That's what they called it.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I thought you were just gonna make.
I didn't make that up. Like anyway, I was talking to Kyle Ward about it, and one of the problems they have with that is North Shore is a state road. The property on either side of North Shore is city, but what was it? But no, how did he break that down? All three entities would have been involved and worked together on it. That's what it was. So Keller Bend is county, and the remediation plan, the only one that made any sense to help stop that flooding from happening, was to build a pump house and pump water out of it into one of the other ones that gets back into the river faster. And that would have had to go through county property. And so the city, county, and state would have had to get together and agree on a plan, because the weird-ass way the lines are drawn out there.
They just said, nah, never mind.
Yeah, they said, we can't do it because we can't get everybody on the same page. So that's that. Anyway, but like, I don't know, that Kroger down there and that McDonald's and all that, the business down there, all their sales tax revenue goes to the city of Knoxville. Now, if Knox County was collecting that, if Knox County was collecting Emery Road's the same way, almost all of Emery Road on either side of the interstate is somehow in the city of Knoxville, even though all the residential between the two, like all of Callahan, all of Emery Road, all of Merchants are in the city, but all the residential between those roads is county. Now, if the county was collecting all that taxes, I don't know what that would make a difference to the county's bottom line. But I think it would be significant, because like 90-something% of all sales tax raised in Knox County is in the city of Knoxville. All the commerce is in the city of Knoxville.
Oh, sales tax, yes.
Yeah. Which is 2.5%.
Right.
Is the local cut. Or 2.25%, sorry. It's not nothing. Property tax is a larger portion of the income for both entities.
Why are there not more businesses that try to open up a business outside of city limits?
Because they're non-commercial areas. I mean, like all this right here at Morrell and North Shore,
right.
Butler and Bailey, that's in the city. Like there's just there is not a lot of commercial area in Knox County, and that might be Knox County's fault for not permitting by zoning a lot of commercial stuff in the unincorporated parts of the county.
I'd be curious to look at.
They do make some
city lines. That's really weird that they would just have city lines.
Oh, Victor Ash was nuts on it, man.
On just kind of like
100
feet on either side of any major road. It's hey, we're making all that commercial.
The finger annexes, yeah. That's literally the term for it. The finger annexed all sorts of parts of the county. Yeah. Map. Let's see.
So does the city and county get most of their funding from? I guess city we get most of theirs from sales tax.
Both of them get the majority of their tax revenue comes from property tax.
From property tax, okay.
Yeah.
So the county would benefit having more people living in the county, but the city is also making more money compared to the county.
I mean, the county makes more money, period.
I thought you said the city gets more.
They get more sales tax.
They just get more sales tax.
I'm trying to pull. Oh, geez. Way too high tech. Can't handle that map.
But city versus county,
Well,
as
actually-
far as bringing
actually-
into county budget.
Let me take that. Let me.
Maybe that's where I was getting confused.
Let me take that back. Right.
Okay.
Right, because the county has almost a little bit over $1 billion budget this year, but what was it? Like 600, like a little over half of their total budget was the city paying into for schools. I think the actually property tax collected in Knox County was somewhere in the $600 million range, and the rest of that was county sales tax and city's school agreement kickback sales tax. And I think the city, I like the two municipalities have a similar budget without the school part. You take the school part out of the conversation, I think it was like $600 million. I think they both have about $600 million in budget before the sales tax part kicks in, and then the city kicks in 65% or whatever of their sales tax revenue to Knox County schools, which basically goes to Knox County. And then Knox County's sales tax revenue got them up to, that's another half a billion. But then
they're not too far off as far as tax revenue from a city resident versus a county resident.
Right.
Resident.
Right, because everybody in Knox County pays Knox County property tax.
Right.
City residents pay Knox County property tax and City of Knoxville property tax.
Right.
And what they get for that extra property tax is fire and whatever, and police and all the different services that the city provides that the county doesn't. Well, the county does provide police through the sheriff, but doesn't provide fire and trash pickup and special events staff that I partake. As a county resident, I use their services. But I use them for the city, so be fair. Can't find a good map. But yeah, it's weird.
How's UT going to do this weekend?
I don't know. Nico's hurt, which is not good, but so is the number one running back for Georgia is out. The number one running back for Georgia is out. And Nico is questionable. I don't know. What's his name? Carson Beck or whatever, their Georgia's quarterback.
No fucking clue.
He has not shown very good. He's not had a very good year. If our defense is good, very good, and if our defense can get him under duress, he's thrown 3 interceptions in 3 straight games. So if we can continue that streak for him, I think we can win this game.
Think if we win, we're fucking up the hedges?
No. I don't. It's a big enough game. There'll be too many Georgia fans there to let us. I mean, it's in Georgia. I mean, like, I don't know how big is Georgia Stadium.
No idea.
I mean, it's not Knoxville big, obviously.
It's no nailing.
It's not nailing big, but it's probably like 70,000, 80,000. But given the stakes of this game, like, I mean, it's a big game for both. Like, as far as the long-term season implications, you know, this turns. What's Georgia? Is Georgia a 3-loss team yet? They're a 2-loss team right now. This would make them a 3-loss team.
Yeah, I think I saw they were like 14th coming into the game. Rankings.
Yeah, we're ranked above them, but where'd it go? There it is. Tennessee is number 7. Georgia's number 12. We're only a 1-loss team. Sorry. And they're a 2-loss team. So if Georgia loses this game, they are out of the conversation for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Where we can lose this game and still have a shot. Like, we win this game, we're almost guaranteed in because we really have nobody left. That's not true. We already beat Kentucky. We do have Vandy, and Vandy's no joke this year.
Apparently, yeah.
So you got to take Vandy seriously. But I think, you know, should is a terrible word to say in anything. But if we can pull this one out, we should win out, and we should finish 11-1, which would be incredible for Tennessee. I wouldn't have expected an 11-1 Tennessee this year. But even if we lose to Georgia, we'll be a 10-2 team. And I think we'd be right on the tail end we could still be on the tail end of making the playoff, which I learned this a couple weeks ago. Where we sit right now, like winning the SEC is not the best option. Being the second team in the SEC is where you want to be, because the winner gets a bye week, but the runners up will get a home game for the first round of the playoffs. and this is, for business purposes. Like, I don't care about like, this isn't a football thing. For the sake of business, like, that's good for Knoxville to have a bonus home game.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That'd be amazing to sneak a bonus home game, and I think that would be just downright incredible.
I had a funny conversation with my roommate last night. We were watching an NHL game, and he was like, "Why don't they have they should put the record up on the screen too, like where the score is." I was like, hey, that's like 3 different numbers. I'm trying to think. I'm like, yeah, I guess football kind of does that. Well, they'll have like your win-loss record.
They should just put your points in.
I don't think even the points wouldn't matter. And I was like, my main thing. I was like, it's inconsequential to the game. I was like, it doesn't really make much of a difference.
But if you're a casual fan of that team, of the game or whatever,
right? He wanted, I guess,
it gives you reference.
It's up there like all the time. Like they do reference it every once in a while.
But it gives you a reference as a passerby fan on where these teams sit in the grand scheme of things. Like if it just says like I don't know what the Preds have right now, 16 points. They're not doing great.
I don't even know if they got that much. Yeah,
I think they probably do. For those who aren't hockey fans, the Predators are
at the bottom. Still.
At the bottom in 17 games played, 13 points. So if you're a casual fan and you walk into the bar and the Winnipeg Jets are playing the Nashville Predators and the score is 0-0, but they're underneath where the record is for us football people, it says 30 points to 13 points. Season points, I guess you'd have to figure out a way to call them.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the kind of weird thing.
But you see that in passing, you go, okay, the Winnipeg's the better team. They have a better record at least. They're winning more games or whatever it is. So it gives
one thing if you could do kind of like football, like a win-loss, but in hockey you've got to have 3 different digits.
4.
3.
No, they do 3. That's right. They do win-loss and overtime losses.
Overtime win.
Overtime loss.
Overtime win.
Look at it. We're literally looking at it. Win-loss, overtime loss.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Your overtime win counts as a win. Sorry, you're right. You're right.
Because you get 3 for a win.
Right, but you get that 1 point for an overtime
loss. 1
loss.
point if you get to overtime. Yeah,
and lose in overtime.
Right.
Yeah.
They used to do it they used to do it differently. It used to be 3-2-1.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You got 2 points for an overtime win, and 1 time. So basically, each game had 3 points: 3 to the winner, 0 to the loser. But if it went to overtime, the 3 points got split, and whoever won in overtime got the 2-1. But yeah. I don't know.
I was looking at the screen. I'm like, I don't know where else I could put it because
you could
another like half of the chyron at the bottom is scrolling of games in like other leagues and other.
I think you could. I don't disagree. I think it would be nice to see it. I think you could do 11-5-1 for the Florida Panthers right now or whatever. You put 11-5-1 underneath.
All right. I think they do occasionally, but it's not something that's like up there for most of the game or whatever.
Because I do think for especially for a casual hockey fan whom is maybe a football fan and is used to seeing it, it kind of gives you like a quick reference to what's going on.
Well, I was trying to think. I think baseball probably has a 2 or 3 number kind of record.
Yeah. No,
I don't think it's something that they keep up on the screen all the time during a game.
Well, I think I don't know if basketball will be the most comparable.
I think soccer. I don't think you put your record up there.
Yeah, well, soccer uses the weird ass points thing that we're talking about for. I think that confuses people. Just the point system that hockey uses, soccer uses the same point system. I don't know if they let draws happen.
Well, so like Premier League, it's just win or loss, and
draw.
Then there's a draw.
Right. So it's 3 for the win, 1 point for each team for a draw.
Oh, okay.
And no points for a loss.
Okay. So they've got 3 digits. Yeah.
Right.
But again, you're watching one of those games. You don't have their record up there on the screen all the time either.
But I'm just saying, from your roommates to try to get in your roommate's head, which I don't know if this is why he was thinking or not, but to me, I could see that as if you're a casual fan that doesn't pay a lot of attention, it's a way to say which team's the good team and which team's the not so good team, or are these both good teams? Like if those numbers are close, you say, oh, should be a good matchup. Because like even like in football, I'll be watching football. Like I'll just be like I don't have regular cable anymore, but back in the day, I'd be flipping through channels and ESPN and CBS and whatever on a Sunday, and I'd pick a 2-6 team versus a 2-6 team over an 8-1 team and a 2-5 team or whatever. It's like both these teams are 2-6. That's probably going to be a good game because they're equally bad. as opposed to one team that's really fucking good playing a bad team. And so it's just a quick reference on, are these both good teams? Are these both bad teams? Are they closely matched in their record? Because if they're closely matched in their record, that has the potential to be a better game.
Yeah, but even in football, I mean, what's the common phrase? Any given Sunday.
Pro ball.
Okay, that doesn't apply to college at all.
Not as much, no. Now, yes, Vandy is proving that point this year, for sure. But no, like if you got Ohio State playing Mercer, and it's a...
Okay, yes. A crazy lopsided, yes, but it's still...
I mean,
you
look,
have upsets that happen all the time.
It's true. In college ball, especially now, this season has probably been the most parodied season ever. We have no... I don't think there's any team in the SEC that has not lost a game yet.
Yeah.
There's only like 2 teams in the country that have in the top tier of teams, and it's Oregon and Ohio. No, I think Ohio State lost a game.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, Ohio State's 8-1. Texas is 8-1. I think Oregon is the only undefeated team left, actually.
Go Ducks!
And somehow they're in the Big Ten. Oh, no, sorry. Army is 7-0. And Tulane is 6-0. Let's go Green Wave. It's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite. My fun little trivia question.
When was the last time Army was ranked?
It's not too long ago. They're
really.
But I mean, on the tail end of the rankings, you've seen it. You'll see it a few times here and there.
What division do they even play in? Like who do they normally play in?
The American Athletic Conference. It's right here. It's Army, Tulane, Navy, Memphis, East Carolina, North Texas, South Florida, UTSA, Charlotte, Rice, Temple, Alabama, Birmingham, Florida Atlantic, and Tulsa. Ooh, I didn't know that. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane. There's another one in my no S teams I need to add to my list in my mental head. There's a bunch of those no S teams in the American Athletic Conference. The new ACC, which sucks. The Big 12, which sucks. Big 10. Oh, Indiana's still undefeated, too. I forgot about that one. BYU 6-0. Let's get down here to the SEC. Where we at? Where we at, SEC? Yeah. Oh, shit. Tennessee is in the conference standings is 5-1, 8-1 overall. Right now, Tennessee is on the top of the SEC. Holy shit. I didn't know that. I figured Texas still was, but A&M is 5-1. Texas is 4-1.
How are they only 4-1? Have they had 2 bye weeks already?
No, they just haven't played. Those are in conference games.
Oh, gotcha.
They're playing SEC schools. They've played 9 games total, but only 5 in the SEC so far.
Gotcha.
Which
means they have a gimme this weekend too. They're playing like Mercer or something like that. They have their not bye week this week. Is that this week? No. What am I'm wrong. They're playing Arkansas tomorrow.
Arkansas.
Who's playing? Maybe it's Alabama. Alabama, that's who it was. They're playing like Alabama State or Southern. What is it? I've just got to look it up. It's driving me nuts now. Mercer. It was Mercer. Just making stuff up.
You're pulling that out of somewhere.
Yep, that might be why I was on the brain. Which we've had homecoming last week, which traditionally it's usually I would assume that Mercer is homecoming for Alabama. That's tradition. Is you usually
play an easy game.
You play a cupcake because you want to win homecoming. But we didn't. But we still won the game. But that's crazy. I didn't realize we were number 1 in the SEC. That kind of blows my mind. Go Vols. We played at not awesome Mississippi State. Yeah, so we have UTEP and Vandy after Georgia. I mean, I don't know. We're a good team. And I think we've got a real shot. I don't know that we can win the tournament, but we should get in it. And that's exciting. That's good for business, too. I like that. It's good for Knoxville. It's good for Knoxville in general when the team does well. As much as I like to hate on UT for all their bullshit. It's good when UT does good. I mean, we are the best athletic program in the nation. Like, full stop. That's not an opinion piece. Our baseball, softball, basketball, football are all like top 10, top 15 in the nation.
Right.
Like we are in the top of every major sport. And then I think our track team's like one of the best track teams in the country. Like all our sports are up there. So good job to what's his face, the athletic director.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
But anyway, so that was our sports section, everybody. We're on fight 3, Barros Ramos. Don't really care. Just waiting for the one fight. I don't know if you guys heard the big lumbering adult-looking male child that I have just came flopping down the stairs to see if the fight was on yet. Which is, again, for him, that's weird to me. Like, it's not weird. It's not bad weird. It's like he doesn't leave his room for anything except food and go to the bathroom. So to do something that I'm excited to share with him I'm excited about it.
Right.
Like, I'm pumped. But I don't know.
Maybe he's trying to find a bonding moment.
Maybe. They reopened Planned Parenthood here in Knoxville. That's exciting.
Did see that.
To much pink fanfare, I guess. I don't know. I don't really, I'm sure there'll be some. Their color is pink, and they had a bunch of pink stuff out when they were doing their thing.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
So I thought you were just guessing, like they're being all pink stuff. I'm like, I don't know if pink's really their color unless it's like breast cancer awareness.
There it is. See, look, their building is orange actually, but their sign and stuff is pink, and they did a pink ribbon cutting. Gloria's there. Surprise. Who else is in that picture? That lady ran for mayor, and she's now on city council. Debbie Hillsley.
Jane Georgia.
I'm trying to see who else I see. I don't know. The picture's not big enough, Compass. I need bigger pictures. I'm old, blind. Whatever.
Hopefully nobody will shoot it up again.
Burn it down. That's what happened to the last one. Probably the same guy shot it and burned. He shot that building. Well, we don't know if he shot that. But yeah, he did. He put a shotgun through the glass in that building. He shot up the Duncan Federal building, and then he burned this one down, but not in that order.
I think he died recently too.
Yeah, he died.
Past since.
Right, he died. But he died in jail for shooting up the Duncan building. Before they put him on trial for burning down Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I don't see why it's a big deal that Planned Parenthood exists. They're not doing abortions there. If you're anti-abortion, it doesn't change anything. I guess the argument's always, well, if you're contributing to Planned Parenthood, then maybe the one here isn't, but the money that we're putting in there is going to get moved around and go to places where they are doing it. That's the argument. It's like, well, then, if you hate China so much, Marcia, then don't buy plates from China.
All right.
Dumb bitch.
Misplaced anger.
I think there is definitely concern in Sino-American relations, from both perspectives. I think China has a long game that is not definitely doesn't give a shit about America's standing in the world. But I also don't really feel like Marcia's take is accurate either. Like, I mean, I think if Marcia had her way, if you could get her real high and ask her and get a straight answer out of her, she'd say, like, let's go to war right now.
I don't know if she's that much of a war hawk.
Let's go do some regime change shit and get Xi Jinping out of there and get some other guy that'll do what we tell him to do.
Oh, I think we've talked about it before. I mean, as much as lawmakers want to shit on China, they aren't too shy of cozying up to them as well for business needs or other needs. I think as far as when you're looking for a market for goods.
I think it's a new Cold War. I think we can blame our problems on there. We can make things that we don't like their fault, and then just take advantage of the things that we do like. We got to have somebody to blame and point fingers at. And Russia is not as viable anymore. They're just not a world economic threat like we thought they were. I don't think they ever actually were, but we sure shit thought they were.
Well, a guy I watch thinks that China's kind of circling the drain in the next 10, 15 years.
I mean,
they're running the same issue that we are as far as their aging population. They don't have a younger population.
Well, that's what you get for having the one-child program.
Right. That kind of screw them over.
I don't know.
But I mean, they've still got a decent manufacturing kind of base.
Right,
but at what cost? I mean,
their moves into Africa is the part that scares me about what China's doing.
Right.
Like all the stuff that they have in Africa, all the property that Chinese companies, i.e. China,
Right. Yeah, I
has
saw
legal
something-
rights to do stuff and has legal rights to in those nations in Africa and stuff like that.
Right. With an investment, they're like, "Hey, we'll bring in and build some
Right.
roads and build some factories,
Right, and
but
loans to governments and stuff like that all over Africa and stuff like that. And so it's like when you need some weird mineral out of the ground and that nation that owes you a bunch of money has it, you can get that mineral for whatever thing you want to do or whatever it is, whatever natural resource you're chasing down in that or whatever it is exactly. They're playing a long game and it's not.
Yeah, or if the infrastructure there is like, oh, you guys need a building to process like the ore. Like, hey, what do you know? We just happen to build one of these. Like, how convenient.
Oops. Let's see. Let's just put. I mean, it's here. We might as well put it to use, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. Like, I don't think. I don't think there's a. I don't think we have a real military threat in China, unless we want to make it one. I don't think they have any interest in picking a fight.
Yeah, I don't think they have any desire.
And I really don't think that we have any upside to picking a fight. Like, we could start the fight, but I don't see what the upside would be. Because, I mean, hell, half the chips that enter the rockets that we're going to fire them come from
Taiwan.
There or Taiwan. Anyway. I don't know. Like, I'm curious. Like, I love this current, like, tariff is a tax. Like, just everybody's using tariff and tax as ubiquitous single words that I've been seeing around.
Right.
I mean, it's not completely inaccurate, but it's a little bit fast and loose with definitions. And I think it's inappropriate.
Some of it came as a response to one candidate just throwing it out willy-nilly without any kind of like reference.
It's a beautiful word. I mean, I don't disagree. It will inevitably
It was
raise
just kind of like,
prices.
oh, that's the answer? Yeah. But nobody really wanted to look beyond that. Everybody was just like, yeah, we're going to raise the tariffs, and that's going to make the cost go somewhere
Well,
else.
I mean-
and it's like, well, actually, no.
I mean, I agree. I guess it's simplified for the stupid, and that's why they're using it ubiquitously. And maybe I should try to keep that in mind when I get upset about the way people word stuff. Because
They want to raise taxes. It's like, well, yeah, they're not going to raise taxes. They just call it a tariff that your business that you buy your shit from is going to raise the cost. So it's an untaxed tax or whatever.
Right. Let's talk about. You want to talk about the hidden taxes? Let's get rid of credit card fees. That's the
Are
biggest.
they at like
tax.
20%?
Do it?
Are they at 20%?
No.
Oh, okay.
Do they need to be at 20% for them to be?
Well, no, that's what we're talking about as far as tariffs. Was adding a 20% tax.
I mean,
Some of it was like 100% tax across the board, but I'm hoping that was just rhetoric. That I think a 20% tax was kind of one number. That's been
okay.
floated.
So, but a 3 to 5% tax, or a 3 to 5% increase in the cost of what you're buying for all things, period, probably sums out to about more than a 20% tax on certain goods. Right. And plus,
does it equate to a credit card fee?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
A 3 to 5%. Like, bottom line is you're paying at least 3 to 5% more for everything you buy. Well, everybody is, and that's the kind of shitty part. I don't know. One day, fingers crossed. We'll see how it changes. Like, well, a lot of places are starting to do it. My tire shop does it. DMV does it. You go to the DMV and get your driver's license renewed or whatever. They charge you a fee to use a credit card. And that's just them.
I've done it online. It's like the processing fee or
right.
whatever.
And that's just them making you pay for the credit card fee.
Right.
I'm waiting. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm waiting for Walmart and Target and Weigel's and some of the big boys to start doing that, and so it becomes normal to people before I'm going to start doing it. I don't want to have to be the one to explain it to people.
Right.
Because the problem is like at this point, the game is already kind of like it's. The only way I could get away with doing it is, okay, so like I say you now pay this fee, the specific fee goes to you when you run your credit card, but then everything in the store goes down 5%, and then I can explain that. But that's not how it's going to happen. When and if I do turn it on, it's just going to be turned on, and nothing's going to change. And it's not because I want that money, it's just because like 5%, 3%, like if you take that on all the different items, it's a quarter here, quarter there, quarter here, quarter there. It's just a massive amount of effort, not to mention that constantly every time we order stuff, it's a nickel dime more, and I don't change prices until it gets way up there. And then, so it's not going to be super obvious to the customer. Sorry.
So what tickles you about this new way of talking about tariffs again? So
I just think
I didn't know if I stopped you in the middle.
No, it's just it's not it is a tax functionally on the importer of goods. Yes. But everybody keeps throwing it out as a tax on you, the citizen.
Right.
Which in the long run, theoretically, yes, it will be, assuming the prices go up relative to. I mean, not even relative to, assuming prices go up. But we also live in the world where inflation is inevitable. And so for the standard consumer, are they going to know the difference because it's going to come out as inflation. That's how they're going to report it. And so it's like one of those, well, okay, Trump takes office, starts dropping all these tariffs on, and inflation goes from 2.5% to 3.5%. Everybody's going to say that 1% increase in inflation is because of those tariffs. I mean, Trump might say it because he's like, I put 20% tariffs on and your cost of goods only went up 1%. It's a pretty good trade-off, I think. Or the inflation could be completely non-related to the tariffs and be coming from somewhere else.
True. And
so it's just it's so far afield from what you're actually going to see at the end of the day that I don't know. I have a hard. It's both sides of it. It's Trump's willy-nilly use of the phrase like it's just a magic wand of we're going to get.
All right. I saw an interview with one guy. He's a pundit, a little bit more more so on the left side, but was like sat down with some Trump supporters. And one guy was really young, probably had to be in like his early 20s, but was talking about tariffs. And this guy was completely convinced that like tariffs were paid for by China. He's like, wait, what? He's like, I thought when tariffs, like, yeah, like that was completely what he thought.
They are, if it's a Chinese import on a particular item,
right?
Now,
well, no, they've already gotten their money.
What?
They've already gotten their money. The Chinese company that made the goods, they got paid.
Okay.
Tariffs, like you said, aren't paid before the importer, or are paid by the importer when that product comes in.
Sure. But your ability okay, right. If it's a third party, yeah. So a third party is doing the shipping, or is the import company, yes, they're going to pay the tariff. So if I'm moving a container full of what?
Teddy bears, I don't care.
Teddy bears, and Trump's dropped a 100% tariff on it. Those teddy bears are valued out of the factory at $5 a bear. There's 100 bears in the box. So that's a $500 box. There's a 100% tariff on teddy bears from China. That $500 box, I, as the importer, would have to pay the IRS, I guess, $500 in import taxes, tariff.
Right.
And so the question,
but this guy, I guess, in his understanding of Trump laying down tariffs,
well, the question
was convinced in his mind that those were paid for by the other. Like us raising tariffs on China was automatically going to hurt China because it was going to cost China more money to send things to us.
It automatically is not right, but at some level, yes, it will, because for the particular, if we're going to stay on the teddy bear example, the people whom are manufacturing the teddy bear either have to take a loss in sales.
Why?
Could have to take a loss in sales, assuming that the now $10 per teddy bear cost is too much for retailers to bear. No pun intended. Sorry.
Pretty good.
I mean, pun intended. Damn it. No, no pun intended.
I meant to do that.
I meant to make that awesome joke. You're welcome. But so the idea is one of the ideas of a tariff to function would be that the manufacturer on the other side is going to have to figure out how to lower their costs or lower their price to the importer.
That's under the assumption that tariffs have already been in place and they've had to react. Well, the tariffs have been in place, and that the buying entity has already started to drop in their want of buying this thing, to where now your manufacturing company then has to react and start lowering cost.
I mean, no. I
think you're skipping a couple steps here.
I mean, no, because so this is not an apples to apples by any stretch, but there are a number of companies. I can't think of a specific. The only specific I can think of is a military part of the conversation. Like Putin and Russia has spun up their efforts in the last couple of weeks since Trump won. Have you seen any of the stories on that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so the Ukraine issue that's going on over there, in reaction to Trump winning, Putin is trying to get as much Ukraine territory under his control on his assumption that when Trump takes over and says, hey, we're putting an end to this thing, let's just draw the lines where they are and call it done. That's the guess.
Right.
So that's Putin reacting to what he thinks Trump's going to do on this. I would bet dollars to donuts that there are Chinese companies, especially in the particular subsets of industry that Trump has stated that he wants to put big tariffs on, who are already scrambling trying to figure out how to absorb this new cost that's coming down.
I don't see that, because that's in the expectation that it's going to cost them, that they're going to have less demand for the product.
I mean,
where they would take a hit on it.
Okay, so I think in market research, we'll go to teddy bears.
Something like teddy bears, I mean, that's going to be sold and ubiquitous. It's something that's been sold for hundreds of years or whatever.
Sure, but I'm just saying, to flesh out a hypothetical on it.
Right.
The teddy bear industry. There's lots of players in the game. Mexico makes teddy bears. I'm sure Canada makes teddy bears. We have American-made teddy bears, right? Now, if your value in the market is that you're cheaper than everybody else and you're about to lose that, you got to adjust, or stop doing it, or make a better teddy bear to make it worth the new price that it's getting to be, or something.
I don't see China having to really react much to this, because they've already gone around. There's ways around sanctions. I've seen it as far as like with honey, where honey coming out of China has tariffs or sanctions on it or whatever, to where all they do is sell it
to a company in Vietnam, and then Vietnam imports
and then
it.
It becomes a Vietnam product.
But still, that is still a cost that has to get it absorbed into the system somewhere.
Right. I just don't see them having to react that much, because I think there's still enough demand in America that we're unable to produce enough of our products that we want cheaply enough that
I agree.
We're still gonna,
I agree that the initial shock of it, if he does everything he's talked about doing, will be very significant. I agree with that. If it's all at once and he just says, you know what, I'm not going to ramp it up, I'm just 60% tomorrow, that'll be massive, because all that's going to happen is whatever it is just going to jump up 60, 75%.
That's what I don't think China is already trying to like preemptively. I mean, because that's changing major industries and a possibility of having to react to this. That's a lot of. I would think that's a major change to have a company that's manufacturing do.
It is, but you also, if you're a manufacturing company, it's slow. That's part of the game. Is the way it works is you make so many. It's a economy of scale. You're making so many. That's how you get to make it so cheap.
Right.
And so to shift from even just to shift from teddy bear design A to B is a major process. And so it takes time, and so it's a slow. It's a big ship that turns slowly, and so they're very much forecasting. I mean, like most of the shit that's hitting the shelves right now for Christmas from China probably wasn't even made this year.
Well, it was just earlier in the year. I get what you're saying.
I would say there is shit that was made in 23 intentionally for Christmas 24 in the U.S.
I mean, like cars, you've got to do that for, but I mean, just general products. No, I don't think they're building that far out.
Okay.
I mean, working at the place I used to work, we would order like random shit that has to be made like per order. Yeah, they may have some of those blanks of keychains or whatever, but they're still able to crank out like 50,000 fucking printed little keychain things within a couple weeks.
Yeah, you're right. On keychain, on rubber keychain things and stuff like that. There's
just picking you're right. A general product that I'm familiar with that's it's all like per order basically.
Right.
But that was us going to major suppliers in China or whatever to order this shit.
Either way, the point is that there's that they make a lot of shit, and it takes a long time to change from a long time being relative to change from making thing A to thing B. Especially if you're trying to figure out how to trim a cost out or add a process to make it more quality, to make it more valuable. Like if you're making a significant change to the product, your manufacturing ability changes, and it takes time to make those changes. So I think they are looking ahead and trying to figure out how they're going to handle this. Now maybe they're not functionally making changes yet because they're going to wait till it actually drops before they do the thing, but they're at least looking at it. They're worried. I'm worried about it. Might not be the right word.
Yeah.
It is on there. It's on the radar if you're making whatever. I mean, it could be a huge problem for me personally. I mean, almost everything I sell is made in China.
That's what I said. Like even if they had, and it would be an increased cost, but it's still cheaper than paying sanctions. Like I was said, to have a product that's made in China just sent to a second country, to where all of a sudden it gets relabeled as a product of Vietnam.
And while it may not be as much as the 100%
Right.
$5 to $10 bear that we were talking about, it might go to $5 to a $7.50.
I'm saying, I don't think they're going to have to adjust to anything they haven't had to adjust to before.
Sure, I think they know how to play. They know how to dance. I agree with that 100%. They know how to dance around it and make it work as best they can.
Right.
But at some point, it's going to add cost, and like I agree. I also agree that
the main point of it was supposed to encourage domestic production of things,
right.
and
I don't right.
It's kind of like, well, no, we still want stuff from China, and we'll just pay a little bit more because we still want it to be made cheaply there.
Right. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if these things start laying down and they're significant. Does the ability to make it here become competitive again? That's the theory that tariffs are supposed to be chasing down.
I mean,
or
I would like to think yes, but there's always going to be someplace cheaper. I mean,
right?
We have
go to Africa or go to.
I mean, you only got to go to Mexico,
right?
I mean, seem like some of their like production numbers, like they're almost as, if not more, industrious, productive as China.
Mexican manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
we started doing that with a lot of automotive, to where we literally, had most of a car built in, Texas or whatever, had it shipped across into Mexico to have the upholstery put on,
and then ship back,
or even like vice versa, where almost everything was made in Mexico and sent over to Texas or Arizona.
I could try to put some silver lining on it. Is that would it be better for immigration relations if a lot of industry that's in China goes to Mexico or South America? Would that make our closer neighbors more prosperous nations and maybe slow down some of the immigration issues that we're having?
Well, we still have very high trade with Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think I've heard some credit given to Trump for signing, I don't remember what it was called, but signed kind of a new economic agreement between
a new NAFTA.
Kind of, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be very interesting if we had a lot of U.S. companies that are currently invested in China getting out of China because of cost and moving into Mexico or Honduras or other South American nations.
They're far off from really needing to pull out and move a factory because labor there is still super cheap.
Sure, and regulations are way.
Yeah,
I won't say way in your favor, but they only matter if they matter, and if what you're doing is important to them, then the regulations don't matter.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree, and I think that's one of the issues that a lot of U.S. companies would have going into the South American or Middle and South American countries is that it's close enough to here that some of the environmental shit that maybe you're going to China for isn't as easy to look away from if you're doing it in Mexico as when you're doing it all the way on the other side of the world. So. But yeah, anyway, tariffs are dumb. Tariffs aren't dumb. Tariffs have potential to be done, but it's not as it's way more complicated than that.
It's not a silver bullet.
Damn it! I said that. It's way more complicated than that.
That was my only kind of take on it when Trump would talk about it on the campaign trail. Was it just kind of would lay it out like it was a silver bullet? It's like, how it's going to fix the economy? Tariffs. Like he even said tariffs when it was asked about childcare. I don't know if you saw that. He was sitting down with the Women's Economic Forum of New York or something like that. People that know fucking economy and shit. And one of them even asked him cost of childcare, babysitters, daycare or whatever, the cost is going up. What would you say to an average American family, that's asking how we're going to help with those costs? And it was like, tariffs. It's like, wait, okay, cool. So tariffs solve everything.
I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious what his actual argument is that, other than just saying the word and that's all he wanted to say.
I mean, he did his weave. It didn't really answer the question.
Well,
but his answer to the economic quandary was tariffs.
I mean, I do think there is value in figuring out how to get more productivity out of Americans.
Right.
And how we go about getting that way. That is
what I've read. Our productivity levels are still pretty high
compared to us 50 years ago, or
us compared in recent history.
Okay.
That's where I guess I don't know if that's if they're doing worker versus GDP or.
I'd be curious. Yeah, I'd be curious to look at that because I would say.
I'm assuming that's probably the basic metric. Essentially, how many people we have working, and then how much dollar of goods being produced as to what it's costing us
I'd be very curious,
quote unquote worker to produce goods.
Right. I get. I'd be curious what we're producing.
Right.
Like what they're using. Like what
we're number one in oil production.
And that's about to go up.
We don't produce a lot of pharmaceuticals, but I think we've got a decent bit of like medical equipment companies. I'm trying to think what other like kind of major. I mean, we have like Procter and Gamble's. I mean, we have kind of companies like that make all sorts of like general household products. I'd
be curious. I again, I'm not saying the stats are wrong, but I'd be very curious how they factor all that, because it's like, well, is it the finished good that is like the car example you used earlier? Are we counting GM's Chevy Silverado that's made in Texas as the total value of that going into GDP because that's what's sold,
right?
Or because what percentage of the cost of production was actually done in the U.S. and the question be, I mean, I guess the real question being is like, how much did Americans make in making that car?
Well, I mean, in that car, I'm assuming Chevy would be able to tell you how much it cost them to make that one unit,
right? But my question is on that number, how much of that was U.S. Like how much of that was labor first, and then how much of that was U.S. labor,
right?
Because
but again, to them, it's not going to matter either way. If the number that they give you of how much it costs them to produce that final product is going to give you the number you're looking for, regardless of where products were sourced or where material was made.
Sure, but I'm just saying
they're still going to be able to give you that final number of this is how much it costs us to build this Silverado.
I agree, but when you say this, so it costs us this much to produce this Silverado, and we put that number into GDP, well, that's not really a fair number if 10%, 15, 20% of that production cost was not to U.S. workers.
Why?
Because U.S. workers aren't getting paid. Because if you're saying GDP is this final number, again...
It still costs the company. It costs the American company, the American entity, that money to produce it.
Okay.
I mean, if you took an American company that was buying 100% of their shit from China, you're not going to ask, well, how much did you guys pay for that? You're going to look at the numbers for that American company. You're going to look at how much were they able to buy their product for, how much were they able to sell it for.
Sure.
Boom, there's your numbers.
But we back up a second, and we're talking about...
it doesn't matter if it goes overseas or whatever. You're talking about a cost to an American entity to produce and what they can sell it for.
Yes, but we were talking about U.S. production as it's related to workers, right? That was the GDP per worker thing that you brought up?
That's my guess, and as to how they come up with a productivity number.
And I'm trying to chase that premise down by making the point of...
We're going off a false premise, because I don't even know if that's how they came up with that number. That just seems most logical to me.
We're on the prelim. The last prelim is about to start. Okay. So we got one more fight. It's the girl fight. Okay. Which is it's a world championship fight, so there's a belt winner from the ladies. Okay. Apparently they fought like a year ago, and it was a really good fight. I know you're waiting for Tyson. That's funny. But again, that my question would be how much of GDP is produced by American labor, not American companies? That's the question.
Why does that matter?
Because that's how much. Because U.S. labor is what matters to me in the economic conversation we've been having. Because all the different, my opinion personally is like all the major issues that we have as a country.
I'm looking at the company's numbers. Chevy in this instance, Chevy still had to pay, no matter if they outsourced this to Mexico. They still it was still a cost to them.
I agree.
I don't see why you want to know how much, or why you want to factor in how much money was made to Mexicans that were working at a factory.
Because I want to know how much Americans are producing. Not American companies. I want to know how much Americans are producing.
Okay.
That's.
Well, I mean, if you look at GDP, that you're never going to get that number.
No, you're not. I agree with that. That's why I was saying I'm curious what the factors are to go into this comparable. Because you said our production is higher than it was in recent history or whatever, and which we don't know what that reason was. That recent history last year, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. Because I would think that I would assume, my guess would be adjusted for inflation, U.S. production per U.S. worker is down since in a 50-year span, which is natural anyway, because production per individual should go up. If it should go up with technology.
Yeah, you should be able to, right?
And when it goes up with technology, unemployment should go up inversely, unless you're producing another new thing. This is twice now. This better not. This will be the worst thing ever. This is twice this fight has frozen.
Well, there's a lot of people trying to watch it.
I know, and Netflix better have their shit together.
And you probably got other people streaming in the house.
Well, yeah, but that's never a problem for us.
Let's see here. So it looks like it would be under the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
How many people work? What's the average production per hour? I don't know how to put it. That's because to me that's where you get to the prosperity thing, the raising the getting people out of poverty, raising the standard of living is going to come off of that number that we're talking about right now.
Sorry, say it again.
Raising the standard of living for Americans in general. Like I like this. We're getting late, and the other fight's about to start, and blah blah blah. I don't want to go too deep. We can. I don't care. But like to me, I think as a culture that is the United States, we have a crisis of hope. That is my definition, my explanation for everything that ails us is, or at least the major things that ails us. The only people that do have hope are the people that are seeking in this country.
Politicians like to just fearmonger.
Absolutely. I think that's a huge part of it. But I also think that it's like, like I've complained about it on here plenty of times. It's like, like the reason that I was really struggling with the Biden administration and or the Kamala campaign was like, you're sitting there telling me over and over again the economy's great and I'm broke. And I make way more than average. This household makes way more than average in Tennessee. And I feel broke all the time. And yes, some of that's some of my extravagant spending, like Netflix, so I can watch fights and stuff. But realistically, I don't feel like I'm making enough money to provide well for my family, and it drives me crazy. Like that's an issue that I have. But at the same time, I'm being told that the economy's great. But I think when we get into a bunch of the different issues we're having, it's that we have marriage rates are going down, marriage age is going up, number of children Americans are having are going down per couple. Marriage rates are terrible in and of themselves. All those different things it's like, what am I doing any of this for? What's the point?
I don't think marriage rates are down. I think people are waiting a little bit longer to get married and have kids.
And they're having less kids when they do have kids.
Right. That has gone down.
And I think that's like one of the big things.
That's also comparison to like baby boomers, and you're looking back like 2 and 3 decades.
Sure.
As far as child going down, and yeah, you're talking about a generation.
Sure, but like you go out and like I mean, studies and surveys and stuff have been done where you're going out and you're talking to people, and it's like number one reason for not getting married sooner it was money. Number one reason for not having kids sooner is money. Right. Number of reasons they're not going to college is money. Number of reasons like it's all this the general economics of Americans sucks.
How much of that can you point to Commander in Chief?
I didn't mean to make that. This wasn't a conversation. I didn't mean to make that part of this conversation.
That's literally how you started it off. Was your biggest issue with
the state of the nation right now?
Sorry,
it is. I agree, and I think going back to the stupid tariff things that we've been talking about is that 1,000% Trump saying he's going to fix the economy with tariffs is a flat lie anyway. Because he can't. That's not the job. He doesn't have the authority to do such things. He can do some tweaking and stuff like that. And to be fair, Kamala and Joe didn't have the authority to do, or didn't have the ability to do the things that I was complaining about during their tenure as the executive branch. Like I acknowledge that is not factual, but that is how we vote, and that's how we've been taught to vote, which is a problem in and of itself. I agree. Like we have a huge issue with somehow the president does everything, which is false. And that's politically speaking. I mean,
that was one of the biggest talking points of this election was there was like economy, and then it's all pointed at one party or the other.
Sure, and that's why I didn't vote for either of them, because my number 1A is foreign affairs, and I wanted somebody who was going to stop funding foreign wars.
It's funny because you used to be much more domestic.
I mean, I am, because I'd rather have that money here.
Right.
I am I don't think
you're domestically minded because you want to know what's going to go on foreignly, or you want to know what we're doing with our money foreign wise.
Yes,
gotcha.
I would like our money to be spent on us.
Right.
I would like, if you're going to spend it elsewhere, I need an explanation for how that benefits me. And the me that I use all the time, which is not me personally, the royal me, us American citizens. How is $1 billion here, $1 billion there benefiting me and you? If you're going to answer that, like if there's a good answer to that and I understand it, I'll shut up about it. I can't seem to find a good answer for either the two major ones in Ukraine and Israel right now. I can't find the answer for how this is a bottom line value to me and you, American citizen. I'm not going there. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to go back into that. But I do think that the president's chief obligation is foreign affairs. I think that's the main job, is to play friendly and make friends with the other world leaders around the world and make sure we don't pick more fights. I would love that to be I would love that to be the norm. Is like I would love to see it more as like the royal family in England right now.
Right.
They have no real role. They're pretty and they host dinners and they get together and do stuff like that, and it's just kind of pomp and circumstance, but no real value. They say stuff every once in a while because when some major tragedy happens, they speak out and it comforts the people, and that's nice. But at the end of the day, they're not out there, like Prince Charles, excuse me, King Charles, can't walk over and take the channel and slap Macron or whoever's in France and pick a fight. Like the nation of England doesn't react to that.
I'd have to go back and relook it. I think I mentioned it before. There's that. I think you and your wife watch him sometimes too. Simon Whistler, whatever. He's got like 15 different YouTube channels. But he did one. He's a British guy. Doesn't live there anymore. But he did one on like the actual powers that the crown has.
Right.
And it was at the time it was Queen Elizabeth. But he was pointed out like a few different things that she could do, but or that she has the authority to do. But it's something that, at least for the past recent history, right, the monarch has never tried to exude that right to do something. But they could. There was a few different things that were kind of like interesting. It's like, oh shit, they could really do that if they wanted to.
Yeah,
could be. There might be a declare war in there. I doubt it, but I'm assuming that would probably be much like us, to where the leader could do it for a certain amount of time, but
parliamentary approval at some point,
right?
But I mean, I don't think the king is their version of a commander in chief. Like he's just not the general of their armed forces.
I think they are to an extent.
They usually get the sweet jacket with all the buttons and stuff, but most of them have served at some point.
Right.
Like that's one of the traditions. I don't think that's a rule, because both William and Harry both served.
I want to say they command like
Queen Elizabeth.
It may just be like the royal guards. They may just have authority over like royal guards. But
Queen Elizabeth was a medic in World War II? Smoke show. Maybe World War I. I don't remember. She's old enough.
Not sure.
Sorry, she was old enough.
Right.
She's passed. Rest in peace. She was a smoke show. Pictures of her young. Good God, Brad. Good God, bro. Have you seen the Minions movie?
No.
It's a good movie. She's in it. It's fun.
I think I did hear about that.
It's very it's super overly stereotypical English features. Huge buck teeth. It's funny. It's good. It's great. I don't know. Let's get weird for a little bit, and then let's watch two ladies beat the shit out of each other before we watch two guys fight it up. Oh yeah, sorry. I was watching Michael Irvin do cocaine off the table.
New Hampshire shelter faces enormous problem after man surrenders nearly 1,000 rodents.
Surrenders means he's keeping them as pets?
Let's find out.
I want to know more.
A group of mice called a nest. Oh, a group of mice is called a nest.
Ooh.
What do you call 1,000 of them in one animal shelter? Crippling, said Lisa Dennison, executive director of the New Hampshire Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, which is scrambling to care for an overwhelming influx of rapidly reproducing rodents.
I mean,
that's a onomatopoeia there.
There's a lot of action going on there.
Or alliteration.
I learned today that if you are raising a chicken for meat, it's called a roast.
You're raising a hen for meat?
Yeah. So chicken, any chicken you're raising with the intent to butcher and eat, it is called a roast.
Huh.
And there's a couple other. I think I was kind of joking, but I do think Michael Irvin's fucked up right now. Oh, went away. He might have been high. Might have been on mushrooms. Who knows? He's a superstar.
Sea Slug.
Wonder how much money they're making off this fight.
Have you seen any stories about the Thailand's pygmy hippo, Moo Dang?
I have. It is the adorablest, ugliest thing I may have ever seen.
Apparently it now has an official song in 4 languages.
I'm trying to think of what movie, some sort of what movie was that? It's going to drive me crazy. Oh, it's Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
When they jump through this, like whenever they jump through the wormhole or whatever, and they puke up slugs or whatever.
Yeah, it's been a long time since.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it was from Hitchhiker's Guide, and they do like they puke slugs up, or maybe it's from Harry Potter. Harry Potter do it too. But every time I see that little pygmy hippo thing, that's what I think of. Little slimy slug getting puked up. But anywho, all right, one more.
Yeah, bring it back into sports. Yeah.
All right, we did have a sports heavy show today. One more. Here we go.
Queen Bay and Yale, the Ivy League university, is set to offer a course on Beyonce and her legacy. Oh, sorry, I meant to take back to sports. Sorry, it was right below it. That was another one I thought was kind of weird. I'm like, what the fuck? Slippery Slope. Scottish Soccer Club calls for donations after points deductions for uneven field.
I think that's going back to our hockey conversation.
That's what I was saying. I was trying to bring it back to sports.
I think that's it's unfair to other teams that don't get to play on it as often to have to deal with the change. Because like I remember like when I was in youth hockey, we were taught there's this one spot in the corner where like you'd have to learn it, but there's the one spot in the corner where you dump it over there and it'll bounce back in front of the net instead of bouncing behind the net or coming straight back towards you.
Right.
Like that was something that we were taught as a technique for when you're dumping in to make sure there's no offsides or whatever. You throw it into that corner because if you hit the right spot, where for Knoxville, for Ice Bears players that practice there, that spot's different for them
right.
than it is for players that come from other places. And so it technically would get an advantage. But I know but soccer, uneven field, what do you mean uneven? Like the surface was bad?
Yeah, apparently the pitch was sloped.
Huh. Because I know it's one of the things that they, like Premier League, they're not even the same size.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought it had to be regulation size.
No, there's a range. Because there's a great, again, I love Ted Lasso, it's a great show. But there's a great scene in there where they're going to play at Wembley, and Ted goes into the Hoosiers speech. Do you remember Hoosiers, the movie?
Yeah.
So there's a speech in there where, like, because the whole point of that movie, it's like this country basketball team's going to wins their whatever, and they're going to play in a big tournament, and they're playing in the big stadium in Indianapolis or whatever. And so they're on the court for their practice time. The place is empty. He's like, look around, walk the court. The hoop's 10 feet tall, just like the one we play on at home. The end line to end line is 50 feet or whatever, just like we play in at home. Sideline to sideline is whatever, just like we play at home. And so the Lasso version, he's starting into that speech, and then one of the players interrupts him. He's like, no, actually, Wembley's bigger than our stadium at home. And he's like, wait, seriously? You guys don't have a standard pitch? He's like, no, they're pretty close, but some are a little bit bigger than others, but not much. And so there's a whole. But anyway, great. One of the many great scenes in that great show. All right, man, that's the show. That was fun. That was a lot of sports, though. It was weird. Anyway, we're gonna watch some fights, people. Here we go. Almost Agreement on Fight Night. We should have done it live. Put the camera over her shoulder, watch the fight. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm excited to see hang out with my kid and watch it. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out all the cool stuff we got going on. We're looking forward to wrapping this 2024 up and going into 25 and see what happens. We got a lot of stuff going on in the city and county and state of Tennessee for that matter. I'm starting a big program to pitch a fit about the hemp laws and see if we can't get maybe some better laws in the book so that we can all be happy with it. Anyway, almostagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to your favorite podcast provider, share us. like us, text us to your friends, whatever you can do to help spread the word. I'm trying to get a few interviews lined up, just some guests to come on this show, not do standalone shows. Just come in here and see if I can get somebody a little drunk and say something they shouldn't have said, get them in trouble, like we do almost here, everybody. Good night.